Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to Study Better with your AI tutor. My name is Roger Strang, and I'm an instructional designer at CSULB. Thank you for watching this recording. So the person on the screen that is not me is Sal Khan. He is an entrepreneur, and he founded Khan Academy, which you may be familiar with. And he's the person who first got me interested in using AI for purely educational reasons. And he describes one of his company's products as an AI tutor. So, to give you an idea of what you'll be learning about, first, I'm going to give an introduction to tutoring, and in particular, what good tutoring is like. Next, I'm going to give you time to explore ChatGPT's study and learn feature. And finally, we're going to wrap up with risks and rewards of using AI tutors. So, what is a tutor? Well, usually a tutor is a person who gives one-on-one instruction to a student. And one of the defining characteristics of tutors is that they give just enough help to the student. They don't give more help than is necessary because then the student isn't really learning. So some of you, if you're a student in particular, may have a worry that by using ChatGPT, you're not learning or you're not growing because you're just letting ChatGPT do a lot for you. And it's a valid concern. And using AI as a tutor is sort of the opposite of that. So next I have a little meme, and this is Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. He says, "The most powerful spell I know is consistent, sustained effort." The same is true for learning. In order to learn, you have to put in effort. And in my opinion, if you're going to use AI, you might as well use it in a way that challenges you to think. So this is really the main point of this presentation. Now, different AI companies like Google are creating new features within their platforms to do a little bit of the work of a tutor. And by that, I mean to give you challenges that you then have to sort of solve or answer or just put an effort towards. And so that's why I think of these things as tutors. The one on the screen right now is Google Gemini, which is similar to ChatGPT uh, guided learning feature. Sal Khan and his company Conmigo have a product called Conmigo, and this is a really awesome AI tutor. We don't have access to it in CSULB for free, but it is really great, and it's just another example of AI tutors. And then the one we'll look at is ChatGPT study mode, which is available to everybody in the CSU system. Now, I want you to pause this video and think of 2 or 3 things that help you learn. Okay, write them down. So now I'm going to share what tutoring is and what it isn't. So this is what it isn't. If I ask a question like, what is an aquifer? And then I get a response like this that tells me what an aquifer is, that is not being challenged or asked to think. And it's not really what an AI tutor should do. In contrast, if I ask what is an aquifer and it says, good question, let's start with what you already know. What comes to mind when you hear the word aquifer? For example, do you think it's something related to water, soil, or rocks? This is challenging me to think. And so this is what an AI tutor should do. So we are going to look at a few examples, and I want you to tell me whether you think ChatGPT is asking me to think. So I'll switch over to ChatGPT and look at the first example. So I type, yes, I have worked with median and percent. Oh, sorry. So I type, help me learn how to find quartiles in a data set. And it asks me, can you tell me if you've worked with median or percentiles before? And I say yes. Then it gives me a short definition of quartiles. And it says, let's make it practical. Say we have this data set, and there are these numbers here. What would be your first step to find the quartiles in this set? So is this challenging me to think or not? Answer that for yourself. Second example. So I ask, what is an application of the first law of thermodynamics? And it says, an example is the operation of a heat engine, such as a car engine, and so on. Is this an example of ChatGPT asking me or challenging me to think? And the third and final example, I ask, what are Incoterms? And it says, Incoterms are standardized trade terms published by the International Chamber of Commerce. It gives a couple of examples here. It asks, would you like to go over a few of the most common ones and what they mean in practice? This is not yet asking me to think. It's just asking me if I want to move forward in the conversation. Say sure. And um, it goes over these three examples, and then it asks, now just to check your understanding, if goods are sold FOB Shanghai, who pays for ocean freight, the buyer or the seller? It's asking me to read these and answer the question. So please think, or please answer the question, is ChatGPT asking you to think? Okay. So next, we're going to take time to explore that ChatGPT feature, study and learn. And our goal is always to use AI to increase critical thinking. To access study and learn, you click on the plus button and then select study and learn. So let me show you that. If I go to new chat and click on the plus button and then study and learn, now I have a few options here, and I can also type like a homework question or something I didn't understand in class. And ChatGPT will do its best to not give me the answer and help me reach the answer by myself. Now, it doesn't always do a great job. So 5 minutes, I'd like you to try out the study and learn feature and think about how it compares with regular ChatGPT. And for yourself, think about how did the tutor compare to what you said in the first activity? And did you feel challenged to think? Now, I looked up what is sort of happening behind the scenes inside of ChatGPT as you use its study mode, and this is what I found. It has sort of internal instructions to get to know the user, you. So, for example, asking me what I know or asking me what level of education I'm at. It's also supposed to guide users and not just give answers. It's supposed to check and reinforce different things that the user you has learned throughout the conversation. So it kind of says, well, restate that in your own terms, or do you remember this? And it also has a tendency to ask you if you want to be quizzed on something, which is a very good way to learn. So my suggestion, once you get a hang of what study and learn is to steer the conversation. So this is me with my car, and obviously I use it to get from A to B. And on my journey, I often have to steer around potholes and other cars, basically different little obstacles in my way. And that's why I need to go to get to B. Now, learning is a similar process. You start with where you are, so that's A, and you want to get to a higher level of knowledge, which is B. And to get there, you steer. So in real life, some examples of steering would be studying, or maybe going to office hours, or doing practice tests. These are these are all ways that you're helping yourself get to B. And when you use an AI tutor, you do steer as well. So we'll get into that. Some examples of steering include really explicitly saying, I want to do this, or I want to learn about that. Or if the conversation is veering off in a direction that you don't think is relevant to you, then you can say, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. And if the conversation has some words that you don't understand, you can say, wait, tell me about this word. And, this is really important because if you just let ChatGPT work, um, that doesn't mean that um, it's teaching you everything you need to know. You actually have to sort of stick up for yourself and say what you want. And we'll go over some more examples next. All right, so here's a sample conversation. So I took an earth science um, open-ended question and pasted it into here, which is similar to, let's say I had a homework um, and I didn't understand the question and maybe I use AI for this. And so this is using ChatGPT study mode. Um, the question says the geological timescale is broken into a series of eras, epochs, and periods based mainly on the fossils found in each section. This is an example of which type of dating. And ChatGPT says, good question. Says, so let's think this through. And then it gives two different kinds of dating and asks me which of those sounds like what's happening here. I answer the question. No steering yet. And it says, you're very close. That's the right idea. And then it sort of gives me the answer right here. So the geological timescale based mainly on fossils is an example of relative dating. And that is what I wanted to know. But it just gave me the answer. I didn't really get tutored to get there. It does ask me another follow-up question, but want to I don't want to interact with ChatGPT if it's just going to give me the answers. So I do some steering. I say, please don't give me the answers. Break down the question step by step and ask me to complete each step. If I can't do a step, give me a hint. And it says, okay. And it gives me a pretty good first step. I answer it, gives me a second step. And if you remember, the answer to this question is relative dating. So its final question is, are you measuring relative age or absolute age? And so I know that it's getting pretty close to the answer without directly giving me the answer. And this is not a difficult question because you just have to choose between these two. So I do some steering and I say, ask open-ended questions, not closed-ended questions. And so here's the same step rephrased. When scientists compare layers in fossils without using exact numbers, what do you think they're really trying to understand about those layers? That's a pretty good open-ended question. Here I do some more steering by saying, wait, what do you mean by layers? So I didn't understand what this word meant. Give some clarification and ask me another question. So then, because of its description, I don't quite understand what it's saying, and a visual would help me. So I say, could you give me an image so I can better picture this? And so it creates an image for me, which, by the way, I'm not sure if it's a great image. I ask for clarification, and the conversation goes on. At some point, I say, I'm not sure. I don't understand what you're asking. This is another form of steering, kind of getting the conversation back on my side. So I wrote these down here. Um, you have access to this. So let's move on. Um, we kind of talked a little bit about this. So now I want you to stop this video and try out study mode again. And this time, try to be more intentional this time with controlling the conversation. Okay. Now for yourself, answer, what did you do differently this time? And do you have any questions about steering? If you have questions, please feel free to email me. So we're getting towards the end of the presentation now. I want to wrap up by arguing that there are really two approaches to using AI as a student. One is efficiency, so doing things fast. For example, if you ask ChatGPT to write an outline for you. And then the other way is effort. So if you say, I want to learn how to better write an outline for a paper, help me do that, you're opening yourself up to kind of work. And it may not tell you the answer, it may not write the outline for you, it may ask you to do that. And that is really important for learning. So, what are the rewards to using AI in this way? Well, you can challenge yourself, which is really good for learning. Uh, it's engaging to interact with ChatGPT. I think we all realize that. And so getting yourself to study is easier when you are engaged, and that engagement comes from the conversational aspect of using ChatGPT. You can always revisit the information by looking at your chats. And we didn't really get into this, but you can ask creative questions. So let's say that you're taking a quiz through ChatGPT. You should ask, what are some other ways that I can learn about this? What are some activities that you can give me other than a multiple choice quiz? And you'd be very surprised what options ChatGPT gives you. And next, the risks. And by the way, these risks and rewards are not comprehensive. They're just a sample of different risks and rewards. The first one is immediate gratification. So this happens a lot with technology. We come to expect that things should happen immediately. So if there are studies that show if there's more than 1 second between you clicking on something and something happening, you think that the thing is broken. That's because you're so accustomed to things happening immediately. But in learning and in work, there are very long projects that you're going to have that you may not have immediate gratification. And to have the endurance and stamina to persist, you may need a level of patience. So using AI can lead to the tendency of expecting everything to work out immediately. You may forget about other resources because this is the only resource you use, but there are fellow students, TAs, professors, tutors, books, other online resources, and all of those resources have their own advantages. So I don't think you should forget about those. There's a risk of getting incorrect information. So different people think about this in different ways. Um, from where I've used ChatGPT, I'm actually pretty confident in the information that I'm getting back. But I acknowledge that, especially for higher level classes, the chances of getting incorrect information increases. And then finally, uh, ChatGPT uses water to work. Um, this is a little bit into the weeds, but there are these big data centers with computers in them that are sort of helping or enabling ChatGPT to work. And those data centers get hot and they need to be cooled down by water. And that produces a huge risk for the environment and for the people who live there because more water is being used for ChatGPT. And so there's less water available for the people and nature around. So to review, we've talked about tutoring and what makes good tutoring. That first activity that you did, hopefully that is a good start. Um, we also looked at ChatGPT's study and learn feature, and we wrapped up by talking about the risks and rewards of using AI tutors. And with that, thank you very much for coming. And please don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions or if you just want to chat about this. Thank you.